Imagine a shadow game, one played out over decades where the most personal secrets become the most potent weapons. What if the very fabric of power in a nation could be influenced not by armies, but by carefully collected vulnerabilities? Today, we're diving into a fascinating and frankly controversial book that suggests this isn't just fiction at all.
Yeah, we're exploring Craig Unger's American Compromat, how the KGB cultivated Donald Trump, and related tales of sex, greed, power, and treachery. It was published in 2021 by Dutton. And Unger, well, he's a seasoned investigative journalist known for digging deep, particularly on the Trump-Russia connection. His deep dive here forms a core of this really compelling narrative.
And what Unger lays out in this book is truly sweeping. I mean, he posits this sophisticated intelligence operation, one he argues originated decades ago with the KGB, former Soviet Union's main security agency. And they were targeting influential American businessmen right there in New York.
Exactly. And this initial effort, the book suggests, then kind of evolved to compromise powerful figures, including Donald Trump himself.
Central to this is the idea of compromat. Can you break that down a bit? It's not just a buzzword, right?
Not at all. It's a crucial term in espionage. It literally means compromising material.
Mm-hmm.
And the book thoroughly explores how Russian intelligence agencies like the KGB and its successor, the FSB, allegedly used compromat. They were gathering sensitive, often illicit information on elite Americans. The goal, as Unger details it, was pretty clear. Create leverage.
Leverage to exert influence.
Yes, influence at the highest levels of government and business. That's the core argument.
So we're not just talking about isolated incidents here. This is framed as a long-term strategy set against, well, huge geopolitical shifts.
Absolutely. The historical scope is vast. It stretches from the Cold War era through the chaotic period after the Soviet collapse, the rise of the Russian oligarchy, all the way up to the Trump presidency. Unger tries to untangle this really intertwined world of spying, high society, and political intrigue for us.
It sounds like a complex, maybe even a bit chilling account of how hidden influence might operate.
It's definitely a complex tapestry he weaves. You are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book summaries.
Okay, let's try and unpack this intricate story, starting at its alleged beginnings. Unger claims this whole saga kicks off with what seemed like a, fairly minor KGB operation in New York. What were they doing?
Unger traces it back to the KGB's New York station. And he claims the initial focus was identifying and recruiting American businessmen. It wasn't presented as some grand, immediate scheme back then. The book details it as more methodical, kind of low-key.
Right.
But Unger argues this specific targeting of business figures, especially those with maybe bigger ambitions, set the stage. It laid the groundwork for intelligence operations that would span over 4 decades. A long game, essentially.
Very long game. And it sounds like Unger is describing a strategy that wasn't static, it evolved.
Exactly. He argues for a fascinating evolution. Over decades, Russian intelligence agencies, he suggests, significantly refined their methods for gathering this compromising information. And the scope, importantly, it expanded, way beyond just politicians.
Oh, who else?
Well, it came to include a whole range of influential people, business leaders, powerful lawyers, media figures, even cultural icons. The book really emphasizes the social context here, this milieu of extreme wealth, political ambition, maybe a certain disregard for normal rules.
An environment ripe for exploitation, maybe?
That's what Unger suggests. Personal secrets become currency. Leverage Trump's loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And the methods got more sophisticated, too, moving beyond traditional surveillance to exploiting digital stuff, cultivating long-term relationships.
That paints a vivid and, somewhat unsettling picture. And at the heart of this narrative, Unger places some very well-known figures. Let's talk about Donald Trump first. How does Unger position him in this story? Why him?
Trump is absolutely central to American Compromat. The book portrays him, first as a businessman, then later president, who Unger claims became a target, and maybe even potentially an asset of Russian intelligence.
How so? What made him a target, according to Unger?
Well, the book suggests his high visibility, perhaps his vanity, and what's described as a controversial private life were exploited. Unger meticulously details alleged interactions, historical events, asserting that Trump's business dealings, especially his financial needs, his property ventures, provided numerous points of potential vulnerability and potential contact for Russian intelligence over many, many years.
Right. And then there's Jeffrey Epstein, another figure who moved in those circles, but now his name is just synonymous with scandal.
Yeah.
How does Unger connect him?
Unger presents Epstein, the disgraced financier, as a crucial sort of nexus in this alleged compromat network. The author explores Epstein's extensive connections to intelligence figures, to powerful people globally. Unger posits that Epstein's properties, his homes, that private island, and his wider social networks might have been systematically used, maybe as sites for intelligence gathering or even venues for illicit activities that could be recorded, used for leverage later. The book draws this line from elite American society with its, pursuit of luxury and discretion to these purported intelligence activities.
Suggesting Epstein sort of provided access, willingly or not.
That's the implication Unger explores, providing access and opportunity.
So it's not just these two individuals, but an alleged web. The book also talks about other American power brokers, lawyers, lobbyists, political figures, and Russian intelligence officers too, right? Both named and anonymous.
That's right, KGB, FSB figures. And then on the other side, Unger includes investigators, whistleblowers, former CIA, FBI agents, journalists, people he claims were trying to unravel all this, trying to counter these activities. It sounds like a really complex confrontation playing out behind the scenes.
And how far did these operations reach, according to the book?
Unger's narrative details this alleged expansion, suggesting they reach deeply into the highest levels of American government and society. The story, as he tells it, really culminates in the Trump presidency, with the author suggesting that Russian intelligence had gathered potentially damaging information on Trump and on other powerful Americans too.
Creating a powerful lever, as you said before.
Exactly. A lever that Unger argues could have potentially influenced political events. He specifically mentions the 2016 U.S. presidential election. It's quite a sobering perspective on how international power dynamics might play out, not just through traditional diplomacy or military might.
And what about the American response? Does Unger talk about how U.S. agencies reacted? Were there successful counter efforts?
He does touch on that. The book refers to various FBI and CIA counterintelligence efforts, legal battles, all aimed at trying to understand and confront this kind of foreign espionage on U.S. soil. However, it's important to note, Unger often highlights how incredibly challenging these efforts were. And crucially, he doesn't really reveal ultimate resolutions or, definitive outcomes in many of these investigations.
So no neat conclusions.
Not really. The narrative stays focused on the alleged activities and the difficulties in uncovering and proving them, rather than showing a clear win for counterintelligence.
Which makes the ongoing nature of it all feel particularly stark. Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks then. The actual mechanisms of compromat. How, according to Unger, was this compromising material actually collected and then potentially deployed? What were the tools?
Well, Unger details a kind of multi-pronged approach. It goes beyond just, casual eavesdropping. He references classic spycraft hidden recordings, confidential dossiers, secret communications. Those are the primary tools. But he also really emphasizes the role of specific physical locations.
Locations? Like safe houses?
More like properties owned by figures like Trump and Epstein. He posits these weren't just social venues. They were potentially used as actual sites for intelligence gathering, or even settings for illicit activities that could be recorded and then, bang, used for leverage.
Wow, so the location itself becomes a tool of espionage. And beyond the tech and the sites, Unger also talks about the culture, right? How the very practices and social rituals of the global elite created vulnerabilities.
Precisely. He meticulously details how the pursuit of extreme wealth, status, privacy within these circles, coupled with maybe a certain disregard for conventional morality, made them susceptible. He suggests the desire for discretion, the lure of luxury, the frequent blurring of ethical lines among some of the ultra-rich. These weren't just incidental, they were systematically exploited.
So it's not just surveillance, it's psychological exploitation too.
Right. Absolutely. A deep understanding and exploitation of human psychology within these very specific privileged environments. Unger presents this as a kind of long-honed tactic in Russian intelligence. He even provides some historical context on their techniques to frame these alleged modern operations.
Okay, this is fascinating and a lot to take in. Before we dive deeper into the implications, just a quick reminder, we want to tell you about Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis designed to inspire reflection and rational thought. It's a great way to explore these complex ideas even further. Welcome back. We've outlined the alleged origins, the mechanisms, and some key figures in Unger's American compromat. Let's zoom out a bit now and talk about the major themes running through the book. Beyond the specific claims, what's the biggest takeaway about compromat itself?
I think Unger positions compromise as a truly fundamental mechanism for power in the modern age. It's not just spying anymore. He argues it's a way to gain immense leverage over powerful people, specifically by exploiting, well, their vanity, their greed, their
The
secrets.
things they most want hidden.
Exactly. The book suggests this form of information warfare fundamentally redefines national security threats. It blurs the lines between traditional statecraft and this more insidious shadow war, where the battlefield is individual reputation and the weapon is personal leverage.
Less about tanks and missiles, more about secrets and influence.
Precisely. Eroding trust and influence from within.
It does paint a pretty bleak picture of the moral landscape involved. The book extensively discusses what Unger sees as corruption and decadence among the elites he profiles. How does he argue these moral lapses weren't just individual failings, but were actively exploited?
Yeah, Unger argues they weren't just background noise, they were the vulnerabilities. He paints a picture of a world where, the pursuit of illicit pleasures, financial gain at any cost, maybe a sense of impunity, among certain elites in both the U.S. and Russia created perfect targets. These personal weaknesses, he claims, were systematically identified, documented, and then used to create situations of compromise.
Making people susceptible to manipulation.
Or coercion, yeah. The book suggests it's a consistent pattern, not just isolated incidents.
It sounds like a modern twist on a very old game, but with huge geopolitical implications. How does Unger place these alleged compromat operations within the wider context of modern intelligence? What about hybrid warfare? Is this different from old-school spying?
He puts compromat squarely within that context, modern intelligence, hybrid warfare, where conflicts are waged not just with armies, but with information, influence, disruption. He does distinguish it from traditional spying, which often focuses on, say, classified government secrets. Compromat, as he presents it, targets personal secrets to gain leverage over individuals.
Turning their private lives into strategic assets.
That's the idea, which, he argues, makes it particularly insidious because it erodes trust and influence from within rather than attacking from outside. It's about psychological manipulation on a grand geopolitical scale.
And the implications aren't just for individuals or even specific political outcomes, but for entire systems. The book seems to examine the very fabric of American institutions. What weaknesses does Unger point to?
That's a really important theme, institutional vulnerability. Unger explores what he sees as weaknesses in American political and legal systems, weaknesses that, according to him, may have inadvertently allowed this kind of foreign interference to flourish. He points to things like loopholes in campaign finance, a lack of transparency in certain complex business dealings, maybe an over-reliance on an honor system in these high-stakes environments. The book really prompts you to consider how easily the foundations of a nation might be undermined by exploiting these kinds of systemic vulnerabilities, leading to this gradual erosion of trust and integrity.
So it's a critique of both individual behavior and systemic flaws. Given how controversial the claims are and the high-profile people involved, how was American Compromat actually received when it came out?
Well, upon release, it hit the New York Times bestseller list pretty quickly. And it definitely generated significant media attention, across the political spectrum. It fed directly into those ongoing public debates about alleged Russian interference in U.S. politics. It raised a lot of questions about foreign influence. While, detailed critical analysis is beyond our summary here, its success and the discussion around it show it resonated with contemporary concerns.
It certainly sounds like it. American Compromat paints this compelling, maybe unsettling picture. A world where personal secrets can become national vulnerabilities, where that line between business and espionage just blurs completely, and where influence is quietly wielded from the shadows. It really prompts us to consider the enduring power of information, maybe even its escalating power, especially when it's kept under wraps and potentially weaponized, and how deeply that can allegedly intertwine with power and politics. It definitely challenges us to reflect on leverage and the vulnerabilities that can exist even at the very highest levels.
It really does. It makes you think about the hidden costs of ambition and that complex interplay between private lives and public trust.
For a deeper understanding and further exploration, you should click the link on screen for the in-depth book critique. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more summaries like this. Share this deep dive with friends if you found it interesting. And if you're intrigued, you can purchase the book itself via the link provided. And always, think rationally.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out Mindful Moments and all of our podcasts for more thought-provoking content.